In today's webinar, you're going to learn how to create a dashboard template in Slingshot, which is a digital workplace product from Infragistics that supports embedded Reveal, and use that dashboard in the Reveal SDK, but we're going to add a twist. We're going to use a parameter, which is a company ID, so you only load data into the dashboard for a specific company. This is the most common scenario. I want to create a dashboard template, and then I want to go ahead and only load the data that that particular user is allowed to see. So you'll have the end result looking something like this, where I can select a customer, and then I'll load the dashboard for just that customer. So let's get started. As usual, your hosts are Casey McGuigan, our product manager for Reveal, who's been with the product since day one. She's on the chat along with me to answer any questions you might have. Our emails, cmcguigan@infragistics.com and jasonb@infragistics.com. Please email us if you have any questions or you want to follow up with a demo or really anything about Reveal. We are here to help and excited to hear about how we can help you get embedded BI into your application. So today's agenda, we are going to learn how to create a dashboard template using Slingshot. This might be your first introduction to Slingshot. It's a very amazing tool, and you'll see how it can really simplify the process for you. And then we'll look at how we would set this up inside of a Reveal server using stored procedures, tables, or custom queries. So there's code that we're going to add on the server side and on the client side to make sure that we're passing the right parameters to these queries. Of course, the recording and slides will be available after the webinar. We'll follow up tomorrow in an email, and please ask questions in the chat. So let's get started with our Slingshot demo to create a dashboard that we'll then use in Reveal. Before we get into Slingshot, I just want to highlight that I'm using an Azure SQL database, my Northwind Cloud database, and I have a stored procedure called orders by customer. We're going to be using orders by customer to create our dashboard today. So if I run this stored procedure, you can see there's my BLOMP data, there's my ELFGI data. These are different customer IDs that are in the database. So you can look at this as your massive database. It could have thousands of rows or millions of rows, but you have fields that are row level security, either a customer ID, a user ID, maybe some level of permission. But what you need to do is ensure that whoever accesses the data in this database is only based on this person. So what we recommend is that everything has a parameter in Reveal as far as queries go, and that parameter has to do something with the security. If you're just opening up your database to everyone, that's fine too, but most people are looking at some sort of a parameterized query to make all of this work. So let's go over to Slingshot. I'm going to bring up Google Chrome. Slingshotapp.io is the website that you will be using to log into your trial of Slingshot after you watch this webinar today. And you can see this is the all-in-one digital workplace. So Slingshot is really great because it really does empower teams to perform better than they do today. This is done through analytics, through discussions, through chats, through project management and tasks, and through document management. What we're going to look at today in Slingshot is simply the analytics piece, but we have a bunch of webinars and demos online that you can look at, and we'll follow up in the email with some links that you might want to check out after. So I'm going to go ahead and click login. I've logged in before, so it automatically pulled out my Office 365 email through OAuth and logged me in. Real quickly, Slingshot gives you an overview of things like your bookmarks, your tasks, your mentions. On the left-hand side, I have all the tasks that are assigned to me. I have all of the content that is actually shared with me from other users. I have my analytics, which we're going to look at today. My pins, I don't have any pins here, and my cloud storage. You'll notice here we have a bunch of different workspaces. Each workspace has projects, tasks, discussions, pins, and dashboards. So you can use these workspaces to track what your team's doing, communicate across your team, and manage projects. So here in product development, I have a product development workspace, which also has another workspace underneath it, which is the roadmap. So you have a hierarchy here that you can use as well. So to start, let's go over to My Analytics. If I look at the Getting Started option here on my left menu, and I click one of the dashboards, you can see this is Reveal. So we've embedded Reveal into Slingshot, so we have the same analytics capability. So here, if I click the Edit button, and let's say I go and I edit this individual visualization, it's the same beautiful WYSIWYG drag and drop capability that you have in the Reveal SDK. It's super slick, super easy to use, and all of the features are there. So what we're going to do is we're going to use Slingshot to create dashboard templates. Now, why is this a good idea? The reason this makes sense is that for anyone to get started with creating dashboards, you can do it in seconds with Slingshot, and you don't need to worry about setting up any configuration in Reveal. You don't have to have the server running. You don't have to have dashboards created. You don't have to worry about your queries yet. We're going to let this drive through Slingshot. So I'm going to go ahead and create a data source. These are all of the data sources that are supported by both Reveal and Slingshot. I am going to connect to a SQL Azure database. Now, I've already connected here once, but I will delete my credentials. I'm going to hit delete, and I'm just going to add them again so you can see how this works. So my credentials are jbarris.database.windows.net, which is familiar if you have used SQL Azure. And I will add a new credential here. My username, I believe it's this. And we'll type in my password, and I'll click add, and it looks like those credentials worked, and you can see the databases that I have up in Azure. So I'm going to use the Northwind Cloud database, select and continue. The nice thing about Slingshot is it has a data catalog built in. So I can click edit details. First, I will save this to my data sources, and I am going to click save. So now it's in my Northwind Cloud data source, but the data catalog allows me to change the names of fields if I would like. Allows me to show or hide individual tables in this particular data source. You can see that I have everything here that is available to me. I'm not going to mess with any of this. I'm just going to save and close this. So now if I go to my data sources, we'll see that I have the Northwind Cloud data source. So I'll click this, and you can see I have my tables, my views, my stored procedures, everything that you would expect from your database. What I want to highlight though is I did mention earlier that we are using this stored procedure, right? So this stored procedure is what I'm going to use in Reveal. The underlying stored procedure is actually querying a view called orders query. So the idea here is that as a dashboard admin or maybe a dashboard creator, I'm going to just use this view directly. I'm not going to use the stored procedure. I'm going to use the stored procedure in Reveal because Reveal is only going to let the logged in user see the information that they should be able to see. So if I look at all of the data for orders query, let's go here, select top 1000. You can see that I've got all of my customer IDs there. If I do just my stored procedure, we're only going to see an individual customer ID. So this is how you can implement this row level security. It's either a customer ID, a user ID, maybe there's a permissions table, you're going to look something up. But this is all controlled by you in Reveal. The other thing that you're going to learn is how the ID of the data source ties into the dashboard. So we're going to look at the dashboard file itself, which will help you understand how everything ties together between how you might do it in Slingshot as a template and then how you're going to use it inside Reveal. So I just wanted to highlight that. So let's go back here, go to my views, and yes, we're going to use our orders query view. So let's scroll down a little bit here. There's orders query. I'm going to select this data. Now I'm right inside of my dashboard. So the first thing that I want to do is your typical, how many orders did we have by date? So I have order ID. This is sum. I don't want to do a sum. I just want to do a count of rows. So let's do a count of rows. We'll update this field. And you know what we can do? Just show off a few features here. We can just say total orders like so. And we'll update this field. And now that's what's going to show up in my tooltip. I can also get rid of my legend. I don't need that because here I'm going to put down orders by date. And that's good enough for here. Let's check the box, and there we go. Now we'll change this to freight analysis. That's good. And I am going to create more visualizations based on this same data source, which is what most people are doing. So let's edit this guy. What I want to do next is create a text view. The text view is cool because I can do things like show the customer ID. So we're going to make sure that this keeps us honest when we're selecting customers in our dashboard. We'll also add country. Let's add company name in there, and let's swap these two. There we go. Alfke, Alfred's Futter Key. I'll maybe do company name on top. That looks better. All right. We'll just say customer info. And we'll check the box like so. And this guy is quite large. Let's make him a little bit smaller. And we can maybe make him that small. Let's duplicate it again. I don't want to do this view. What I want to use is a text view. And in this case, I am going to do the value here, and this is going to be called total freight, like so. And I am going to select this guy, and I'm going to say no large number formatting, so I have my full value there. And we'll duplicate this one again, and this one won't be total freight, it'll just be total orders. And not a sum of order IDs, but just a count of rows. So let's update this, and we'll say total orders. And check this box. And maybe these guys can be a little bit smaller. Match them like that. Looks pretty good. Can I fit them over here? Maybe. Yep, let's put them there. Let's make this one a little bit smaller. And actually, if we want them to line up, maybe we can push this down to here, push this down to here, make this a little bit bigger, and make this a little bit bigger. So we have a nice big dashboard, big display. Everyone can see it and read it. So let's add one more visualization. I will duplicate this guy, and we will edit. And I want to do something a little different here. Let's do a map. And most of these folks are in Europe, so I'll do a European map. And I want my location to be ship country. And I want my value to be freight. So I can see where all of the sum of freights are shipping. So it looks like most of this is going into Germany, like so. And ship country, we can make it look better in the tooltip by just doing that and updating that field. And we'll just say shipped to, like so. Check the box. So now I have this dashboard. It's called Freight Analysis. It's pretty slick. Actually, let's do one thing. You know, we're perfectionists here. Can we slide that over just a little bit? Yeah, hopefully that doesn't muck it up. Let's check the box, and I'm going to save this over to my dashboards. Maybe I can put it in the data catalog. I have a templates folder here, so I can add a Northwind Cloud section, and I'll save it there, Freight Analysis. So I'll save this guy here. And so boom, there is my dashboard. So this template now I want to load with each individual value. Now, if I didn't want to do that, I just kind of wanted to do it all here, I could add a dashboard level filter here, and I could do customer ID and then connect all of these to that customer ID and create the filter. So now when you select an individual item, it'll actually filter the database based on that particular item. So you can see that it's just updating to that, but I don't want to do that. I'm going to delete this, and we're just going to have this whole dashboard, and there's Freight Analysis. Let's go back. There's Northwind Cloud. I am going to, I think I actually need to have this open to go and export this as an R- file. So yes, the R- file is what you're used to seeing in Reveal. It's just a Reveal dashboard. So let's go ahead and, actually I'm going to copy this. So let me copy this, and I'm going to paste it, and we'll rename the copy to zip, and I'll just call this 11. Yes. Add. There we go. And let's open this with our archive utility. And then I'm going to right click on this and I'm going to say, can you open this up in Visual Studio Code? So here we are in Visual Studio Code. The thing that's important here is you have the data source item. Data source item, of course, is what you're used to seeing inside of your server. So here I'm actually have my node server running. And if I go back up here, you'll note that I am checking if the data source item.id equals this. If it equals this, etc., it will execute this particular query. So looking at this dashboard item here, I've got an ID. Maybe I can use the ID like of this orders query. It's the underlying table, but I don't want that. I just want to know that the dashboard title or maybe table is something that I can say, hey, if it's this, then do this. So if I do a Control F in here and I just loop through, you can see orders query is in the title and in the table of each one of my visualizations. So in Reveal, I need to say, hey, if it's orders query, I don't want to use that whole underlying table. I actually want to use the stored procedure that I created. So maybe I'll check the table, maybe I'll check the title, both will work. So let's go and close this. And here is my application that's running. So I have my Node.js app, and I've got a dashboards folder here. And inside dashboards, I've got my marketing and I've got my sales R-dash. Those are just default templates. Now I want to add this template that we just created in Slingshot. So I'm going to reveal this location in Finder. So there's my dashboards folder, marketing R-dash. And let's go to Finder here and downloads, and let's grab freight analysis. We will copy this and let's paste it right into here. So now I've got my freight analysis.r-. So how are we going to handle this? I've got a Reveal server already set up, and you can see that I have different data source items. So these are my curated data source items that I want to set up. Now, one of the things, if you've seen any of the previous webinars, we're always looking to pass some user context parameter into a stored procedure, a query, etc. The way that you get the user context is through the user context provider. So in this case, what we're doing is we're getting the headers, the HP header, from the incoming request, and we're going to grab a property from that. In this case, the property is the name of the user. I'm going to give it a name called user ID, and I'm going to just pass it user ID. And then those properties I'll use elsewhere in my server application. So here, if I scroll down, I'm using my user context, the property.userid that I set, which will be the name of the customer whose data that I want to view. So why don't we copy this? And I'm going to say, not if the data source item.id equals cust order hist. I'm going to say, how about .table? And if that table equals orders query, which is what was coming in, I want to use my orders by customer stored procedure by customer, and the customer ID parameter that we're going to pass will be the user context.user ID. So essentially you can create any template in Slingshot, and then whatever that table happens to be, you'll always get the correct data in your Reveal server. This makes it super easy for you to have a whole team of people creating dashboards inside Slingshot, and then you can just easily reuse those within Reveal. Just remember the table names and you're tying those together with your backend code. Next, let's go ahead and load this dashboard into our index-load-dashboard.html. Remember, we have our freight analysis R-dash, and we want to load this up into the dashboard view. So there's a few things here that we've added. The first is an HTML select. This HTML select has a few of those customer names, and we're going to pass those as our user context to that stored procedure that we have in our main.js code. The other thing we've introduced here is passing this as an HTTP header to the server. This is an API that we really haven't gone over in any of the webinars, but it's called Set Additional Headers Provider. So this provider allows us to set those headers, and that header can be anything, really. It can be one property, a collection of properties, and actually we're not passing it. It's getting called automatically by the SDK, but the URL parameter is the endpoint from our set base URL settings. All we need to do really is make sure that we're setting some sort of a property, and then the user context provider on the server will pick that up. Now, in this case, we are responding to the customer select change event. So here I've got my select, all of my customers. I'm going to do a get element by ID, and I want to put that into the variable that I'm going to pass off to the server. So every time select changes, I'm going to update the header, and it's going to be consumed by main.js or pulled in by main.js, and I'm going to pull that into xheader1, and then that'll be used as my user context. Everything else in the client is going to be the same. So let's go ahead and kill this process, and I'm going to rerun my node main, and we will view our HTML page in the browser and see what this looks like. So my dashboard fires up, and let's go to our developer tools just so we can see kind of what's happening as I select items. I think I had some console.logs in there. So I'm going to go up to my select, and let's pick Elfkey. And you can see now my dashboard loads up. It looks beautiful, and it's only the Elfkey data. Elfkey was passed in the header off to the server, so that is the parameter for the stored procedure. And you can see that this is the only data that I have for Elfkey. It's just a handful of records in Slingshot. If we look at the dashboard in Slingshot, I had a lot more data here. So we had 830 orders, 64,000 total freight, a bunch of orders by year, a bunch of different countries. It looks very different now that we're just using a stored procedure, and that stored procedure is just getting the data that we want. If we look at Blonde P, that data updates. So we have a few more orders for Blonde P. Take a look at a route. A route has maybe a few more orders as well. All my shipments are going to Great Britain, and you can see that I have a lot of orders in 1997, but not a lot in 1998. So everything is passing correctly as we expect from the client to the server through our set additional headers, and the template that we created with all of the data is now just showing me the data for a specific user. So this is great. This is completely reusable. It's bulletproof. It'll work for all of your templates. So if you take a look at how Slingshot works and how you might be able to automate some of this, it is a new way of thinking about Reveal and Slingshot working together to deliver a really nice experience. So there you have it. You learned how to create a dashboard template in Slingshot, which is an amazing tool that you should start using yourself because it's much easier to get started with Reveal and creating dashboards in Slingshot. Then you learned how to load that dashboard using a node server in Reveal. And then we looked at how you can pass a custom header to the server to load the dashboard and pass that user context parameter so you're firing the right query back to the server to only return the data that that particular customer or user is allowed to see. There are many ways to do this. This is just one example, but we get a lot of questions about what this workflow should look like, which is why I wanted to demo it today. So to learn more, set up a demo or a call with us at revealbi.io or just email sales@revealbi.io.